Hello, what's up everybody? Michael from RogueDeckBuilder.com here doing a deck tech video for you guys, bringing you guys another sweet brew, and this is like my third time recording this because I always go too long with these videos. I am too in-depth with my explanations, and I'm sure a lot of you guys don't want to bother listening to a 15 plus minute video, so I'll try and make this short and sweet. But this deck has a lot of sort of intricacies in it and a lot of little fine details that I think are pretty sweet. So I'll try not to talk about them too long. And any questions you guys may have, I'll answer them after in the comments below if you guys leave them. So let's just jump right into it. This is a Rug Keranos deck, and it's a Rug mid-range deck that I think is actually going to be pretty sweet and pretty strong actually. I'm really hoping so. It's mostly based around card advantage and tempo. Gaining tempo through both using our mana more efficiently than our opponent and gaining tempo through bouncing our opponent's threats back and then playing our own threats. And we have a lot of different ways to do that. So let's get on with the very first card that's going to allow us to do that, and that is Battlefield Thaumaturge. This is, again, I'm sure not a card people expect in a mid-range deck, but it's a card that gives us an ability to utilize our mana a lot more efficiently, and that's one of the keys to gaining tempo, is to utilize your mana more efficiently than your opponent. That's just one of the factors in gaining tempo. And because of the cards that we're using are instant speed cards, Battlefield Thaumaturge really is sweet in this deck. So I'll get into more of that when I get to the instant speed spells. But I also wrote an article with Battlefield Thaumaturge, An Hour of Need. So if you haven't checked that out, actually go check it out on RogueDeckBuilder.com, and it'll explain more of how I feel about Battlefield Thaumaturge. The next creature that we have up is Courser of Kruphix. It's another card that's going to help us gain advantage over the course of the game, both through gaining life as well as gaining card advantage and making sure we don't miss our land drops. This deck is going to be super strong against any hyper aggressive deck, I feel. Both in combination with our tempo cards and the creatures that we're using. Courser of Kruphix is a 2/4 for 3, so it's able to block a lot of early aggression and kill our opponent's creatures if they're too weak. Same with our next card, which is Frostburn Weird. I like Frostburn Weird in this deck for a couple of different reasons. First of all, again, it's a 1/4 body for 2, which is huge, but it's also a card that works really well in any matchup. Well, not any matchup, but it works really well in both aggressive matchups and control matchups. In control matchups, we're able to just put it on the board and not have to overextend with our rest of our threats and just keep pumping it and swing for 4 each time. Our opponent has to deal with it, so it's a really solid threat on its own. Against aggressive decks, we can just not pump it, leave it back, and use it as a 1/4 body for 2, so it's able to block pretty much every single 1/2 drop. Of course, saving Soldier of Pantheon, of course, but pretty much any other 1 or 2 drop in standard right now, with the ability to actually kill off cards like Gnarled Scarhide, Tormented Hero, Fire Drinker Satyr. So just overall, a really solid card either way. Plus, on the bonus, it adds 2 devotion for our next card, which is Keranos, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this deck. So Keranos is interesting. I'll definitely give it that. It's really tough, I think, to find a deck that fits with Keranos, but this deck works pretty well with him for a couple different reasons, and that is because we're going Rug. Having access to the green cards like Sylvan Caryatid and Prophet of Kruphix, we're able to utilize Keranos a lot more efficiently and get him out a lot earlier than normal. So we're actually able to get him out a turn earlier thanks to Sylvan Caryatid, and if it wasn't for going green, I probably wouldn't play Keranos. I just find him a little bit too slow. And that's one of the main things is I know people are trying to implement him into American Control and stuff like that, but I personally want to try and find a different way of implementing him, and I think in this mid-range deck, he actually can be quite a strong threat on its own, and again, it's another way for us to gain advantage over the course of the game, or end up just burning our opponent out. And with our creature set, thanks to cards like Frostburn Weird, Niv-Mizzet, and Stormbreath Dragon and Jace, we have a lot of ways to actually get Keranos online, which again is really important, being able to have another threat on board. A 6/5 Indestructible is always welcome, so not much to say there other than he's a pretty sweet card, and I'm excited to test with him because I've never actually played with him before, so this should be interesting. Niv-Mizzet Draco Genius. So this is a one of. Now, this is a one of because first of all, he's legendary. Second of all, I didn't want to raise my mana curve too high. And third, he is not a major point of this deck, but I actually think he's a really, really nice addition to this deck. Again, for the fact that he has 4 devotion to Kuranos is a pretty nice thing. But at the same time, we're able to... He's another way for us to gain advantage over the course of the game. But thanks to Sylvan Caryatid, we're able to get him out a turn or 2 earlier, which is very, very nice considering he is 6 mana costing. But thanks to Prophet of Kruphix, we're able to actually do stuff like flash him in at the end of our opponent's turn, and then on our turn, he's ready to attack in the air for 5 damage, plus draws a card, and it gives us a way also to burn our opponent thanks to his ability. And thanks to Prophet of Kruphix, once we untap, if we have nothing else to play, we're able to dump all of our mana into burning our opponent with Niv-Mizzet. On top of that, since his ability activates every time he deals damage to a player, not just combat damage to a player, we're able to just keep drawing immense amount of cards thanks to that. So again, it's just another way for us to gain a ton of card advantage over the course of the game. Prophet of Kruphix is one of the main cards in this deck, I think, so I might experiment with 3 of him, but I don't really like him. I don't really like Prophet of Kruphix having multiples, because if you have 2 of them on the field, they don't, their abilities don't stack. They don't get any better, and he's already a 2/3 for 5, so he's not that great. It's a she. She's not that great anyways. But it is a really, really nice card in this deck, being able to flash in Kuranos or Niv-Mizzet or Stormbreath Dragon at the end of our opponent's turn, and then have access to more threats on our turn. In addition, since we're untapping all of our mana on our opponent's turn, when we play our threats on our turn and we end up tapping out for that, once we untap on our opponent's turn, we're able to have access to all of our instant speed spells, and again, it's another really, really nice way for us to just out-tempo our opponent, being able to bounce back everything, potentially Cyclonic Rift everything on our opponent's turn, and then just be able to play our own threats on our turn. And we're able to do some sweet things, such as if we have two Stormbreath Dragons, for example, we're able to flash in one at the end of our opponent's turn, and then on our turn we're able to swing through for 8 by playing another one out. So overall, really, really sweet interactions in this deck with Prophet of Kruphix. Stormbreath Dragon, I don't really have to talk about this card. It's just one of the best cards in Standard, one of the best threats in Standard, dodges quite a bit of removal, and thanks to Sylvan Caryatid, we're able to hit its monstrosity a lot earlier to be able to maximize its effectiveness. So yeah, not much to say there. Plus it has 2 devotion to Kuranos, so that's pretty sweet as well. For Sylvan Caryatid, not much to say there either, just a way for us to hit our threats and utilize our mana to its fullest. Jace, Architect of Thought for 3 Planeswalker. For our Planeswalkers, sorry. This is an interesting one, that's for sure. I was thinking of playing Kiora, but I think I like Jace a little bit more for a couple of reasons. First of all, it adds 2 devotion to Kuranos, which is nice. Second of all, it is a way for us to gain a little bit more card advantage, I think, than Kiora, but it also protects against a lot of hyper-aggressive decks, which a lot more people are playing, which is a little bit better than Kiora can do. And we also have some nice ways of protecting Jace, so I don't think it's really much of a problem playing him in this deck. Sylvan Caryatid also does allow us to get him out a turn earlier if we need to, and it forces our opponent, if they're aggressive, for example, if they're playing aggro decks, they need to choose whether they want to kill Jace or if they want to try and do damage to us. But thanks to this +1, we're able to minimize and slow down a lot of that damage before we can potentially blow out our opponent with Aetherize, or cards like Cyclonic Rift. So again, that's another reason why I like Jace as well, is because he forces our opponent to produce more onto the board to potentially blow out with Aetherize. But we're able to protect him quite well even without his +1. Thanks to a lot of the creatures that we're playing, if you look, for example, Corset of Kruphix, Frostburn Weird, and Sylvan Caryatid are all very defensive, efficient cards. What I mean by that is, if you look at their toughness, Sylvan Caryatid is a 0/3 for 2, Frostburn Weird is a 1/4 for 2, and Course of Kruphix is a 2/4 for 3. So those cards are really, really good at just stopping early aggression and really forcing our opponent to commit more to the board, and really have potential blowout with Aetherized. So I really, really like Jace in this deck, and I think he's going to be really, really sweet here. So let's get on with the instances. So speaking of Aetherize, Aetherize is one of the cards that I think is quite underplayed. I realized it's 4 mana, so it's a little bit slower to get out there, but thanks to Sylvan Carried, we're able to do it a little bit earlier and really, really set our opponent back. So if we're playing against, mono black Agar, our opponent goes turn 1 Tormented Hero, turn 2 Gnarled Scarhide, and another Tormented Hero. And on top and against that, we turn 1 nothing, turn 2 Sylvan Carried, and then turn 3 we're able to leave Aetherize up. Our opponent on turn 3 swings through with 6 damage. We snap Aetherize out and pretty much set him back quite a bit, a whole turn pretty much, and that is really, really huge. I mean, that's pretty much just what we want in this deck, is just slowly gain tempo over the game thanks to cards like Aetherize, and then have time to play our own threats on the board and just out card advantage them and out tempo them. That's pretty much the name of the game with this deck, and thanks to cards like Karanos, we're able to have a variety of ways of attacking our opponent. We have Karanos potentially burning them out, Niv Mizzet potentially burning or just swinging in the air, and Stormbreath Dragon to just swing in the air. So we have a lot of different ways of attacking our opponent. Cyclonic Rift, just one of the best tempo cards in Standard, being able to bounce back any permanent, or any non-land permanent, I guess you could say. Of course, other than protection from blue. The Overload, we're able to actually hit a lot earlier thanks to Sylvan Carried, and also thanks to Prophet of Kruphix, we're able to overload on our opponent's turn, and it also, we don't have to worry about, with Prophet of Kruphix, we don't have to worry about saving mana open to leave up on our opponent's turn. We're able to just play everything out on our turn and have our mana up ready to play to out-tempo our opponent. Frost Breath is one that just I want to include with Battlefield Thaumaturge because it really helps in locking down creatures. Being able to lock down 2 creatures for a whole turn for only 1 mana at instant speed is huge. So, for instance, if we have like Frostburn Weird, for example, and Battlefield Thaumaturge on the field, we're able to play Frost Breath for only 1 mana, tap down 2 of our opponent's creatures, and potentially swing through and pump Frostburn Weird for 4 damage. And on the swing back, we don't even have to worry about them swinging back because those creatures don't untap during their opponent's untap step. So Frost Breath is actually really, really sweet, and I think it is super, super nice with Battlefield Thaumaturge. Turn and Burn, another card that's really, really nice with Battlefield Thaumaturge because we're able to play the split cost at much less costing. We're able to do it for 3 mana rather than 5 mana, which is nice. But it also does hit pretty much every major threat out there that we care about. We don't really care about cards like Skylasher or Mistcutter Hydra, so we're able to deal with Desecration Demon, Blood Baron, Stormbreath Dragon, Pelucranos. Doesn't really matter what it is, we're able to turn and burn it, or we're able to utilize either half of the card very, very effectively in this deck. Mizzy Mortars, with Battlefield Thaumaturge, we're able to play it for 1 mana if we are targeting a creature, which is nice. But overall, it's just a really, really solid removal spell. And we, again, thanks to Sylvan Carried, we have the potential of overloading it much sooner than our opponent might realize. And by that point, they hopefully don't have a lot of threats that are able to get out of range of it. So, sideboarding wise, I'm actually not really going to talk about it for a couple of reasons. First of all, this video is already getting long enough as it is, and secondly, sideboard wise is mostly just a metagame call, and filling up our deck's weaknesses. The sideboard is mostly just for the control matchups, as well as some niche decks like Golgari Dredge or Junk Dredge, with cards like Scavenging Ooze. So I'm going to have to work on the sideboard. It's definitely a work in progress, but this whole deck is just sort of a first draft right now. Definitely feel free to let me know what you think of it in the comments below, as well as leave me any suggestions you might have. I think this is a really sweet idea, and I'm really excited to actually sleeve this up and test it out in proxy form with my friends, as well as I will throw it up on Cockatrice and hopefully get some videos for you guys of it. And yeah, not much to say. Um, Let me know what you guys think, and I will definitely talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.